We are from the Alabama Department of Archives and History. It's a mouthful, but essentially we're the organization for the state of Alabama that takes care of our history. Now at our archives, we also have a museum, the Museum of Alabama. If you've never been there, I highly encourage you to come. It is a free museum. It talks about Alabama history all throughout time. And so what we're here to do today is talk to you a little bit about something called community. Community is people who come together, people who work together, live together. Our state is its own community. And what we're going to do is talk a little bit about people from the state of Alabama who have made a difference in their community. And without further ado, let's get started. What we're going to do is start talking a little bit about all of these people we have up here. We have a bunch of different clothes up here.
So, first of all, the question is, what kind of person do we have here? Look at the things that are being held. What kind of job might this person have? Yes, a teacher, thank you. So, this individual we're talking about here, and her name is Thelma Glass. She was a professor of geography and civil rights activist, right from Mobile, born in 1916. So she studied and taught at Alabama State University in Montgomery, and during that time she joined the Women's Political Council, a civil rights group in the city urging black citizens to start a bus boycott after Rosa Parks was arrested. So, of course, many of us are familiar with the story of Rosa Parks famously refusing to give up her seat, but her actions, that boycott, having other people refuse to ride those buses required that whole community to work together, so she played a really key part in there. Boycott leads to the end of separate seating for different races on public buses throughout America, and of course helping make our country more equal. Thelma Glass continued improving her community by teaching students in her geography classes about communities all around the world.
I will take this neat suit jacket, I'll hold it over one shoulder and I'll hold the backpack over the other.
All right, so our person here is really showcasing the chic side of their profession. So what kind of person would wear a backpack? Who wears a backpack?
What kind of people usually wear backpacks? Students, thank you.
My audience participation. Right, and then it may be hard to see, but that we have a dress suit jacket. It's got a little flag pin. We have a tie. So what are some of the careers that you might see somebody dressed like that, wearing maybe not jeans, but wearing more formal clothes?
Politician.
Politicians,
thank you.
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. You are right on both counts, my audience. So we're talking here about John Lewis. So John Lewis was born in Lewis, Alabama in 1940, and his community didn't have much money, but they worked together to run their local school. And John's teacher encouraged him to read everything that he could. So as a teenager, he went on to hear Martin Luther King Jr. giving speeches on the radio. He met both him and Rosa Parks a few years later, and they inspired him to change his own community for the better. As a college student, he organized sit-ins, bus boycotts, and the Freedom Rides, protests for black and white students sat together on bus rides between states where segregation tried to keep them separate. His protests helped unite people in his regional community, and later in life he was elected to be a senator, another type of politician working in the government to improve communities around the country. So he started with his own community, and we talked about those circles moving out from there.
We have right here a, what y'all?
Dress.
A dress, right, a dress, and it is a pretty old dress. It is something that someone might have worn back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, so a good time ago. And what do we have here? Anyone recognize it? It is a Dr. Seuss book. Do y'all recognize this book at all? Have you maybe read a Dr. Seuss book before? Now, what I want y'all to do you mind touching this part right here, rubbing your little finger on that, and just seeing what it's like? It's really bumpy. So that is what we call Braille, and if you're somebody who is deaf, or somebody who's blind, someone who can't see, this is a way that you can read. You can feel it, and you can start to read. Now,
you can actually see on this book, you can see those raised bumps a little bit better as well. So we talk about Braille because all of this is helping us talk about Helen Keller. So Helen Keller was born in Tuscumbia, Alabama, and she lost her sight and hearing at a young age.
Her teacher, Ann Sullivan, taught her to read, write, and speak through sign language and touching a speaker's face and neck to feel how they spoke. She grew up to be an author, writing 14 books and hundreds of essays and speeches, which she also read to the public. And through her writing and speeches, she encouraged governments, charities, and schools all around the world to help deaf and blind people thrive in our communities. She also advocated for better working conditions for all people, better education, and civil rights. So she worked very hard to talk about so many things and helping her community out, both for her own experiences and people beyond her community.
If I'm wearing a hat like this, holding a bunch of stuff I got grown in a field somewhere, what might I do for a living? A farmer, right, exactly. So this is what a farmer might look like.
So when we're talking about farmers, we're talking specifically about Ned Cobb, and he was a farmer born in Tallapoosa County, Alabama, way back in 1885. He was a sharecropper, farming land owned by someone else and giving them most of what he grew. The system of farming made it hard for sharecroppers like Ned to make money and easy for landowners and creditors to take advantage of them. But Ned stood with his community by joining the Alabama Sharecroppers Union. So they're a group of farmers demanding their right to sell their crops to who they wanted and keep their own gardens to provide food for their families, so they weren't allowed to grow their food for themselves. They faced much trouble, but Ned Cobb and the Sharecroppers Union worked hard to improve their living conditions. Ned himself becoming one of the first black farmers in Alabama to purchase a car with his earnings. And this, of course, is when cars are not quite common the way that we have them today. So these are still early cars, very expensive. So again, he's working with his community to try and just help them have better day-to-day lives.
That's right.
To take with us. So all you got to do is take this paper. You're going to use the crayons in front of you to color it, decorate it however you would like. And then whenever you're done, you're going to fold it up. I already have one that I started folding, so I'm going to use that example. Right here, there are some faint gray lines, some little gray lines. If you fold on those, then it'll be easier to cut it all out as one piece. Okay? So let's just pass these out.